Alright, welcome back to the Research Reproducibility Project tutorial video series. So, if you remember last time, we talked about this breakdown of how all of the objects within the project are structured, and talked about how we were going to work our way from top to bottom all the way through the objects and their methods. So, appropriately, we're going to start with the database manager. Let me pop over to, I have all of the commands I'm going to run on the terminal written out just so I am not wasting your guys' time. So real quickly, I'm just going to import this module called pprint. It stands for pretty print. It's just a way, it's just a module that's useful for automatically formatting data that gets printed out so that it's a little bit easier to read. Don't worry about it. It's just going to structure our output so that it's a little easier on the eyes. So first, we're going to import the database manager, instantiate an instance of the database manager, and then start running some methods. So database manager has this method called GetData, which is pretty much exactly what it sounds like. It's just going to pull all of the data from our RepeAT site that takes it takes the parameter of a RepeAT codebook field. So I guess before we do that, let's pull up RepeAT real fast. And I'll take a look. We'll probably reference this codebook a few times throughout the video series. It's super useful. Has for all of our RepeAT fields the variable field name. So this is what the GetData takes as its parameter, any one of these field names. So I just gave it, for example, the author last name. And if we run that, here we have a printout of, for every RepeAT observation we have, the article's DOI, the record ID, and the author last name, which is the parameter that we provided. We'll run through another example just for fun. So we could do the same thing. The database manager, run the method GetData, take in the parameter of of a RepeAT codebook key, in this case reviewer. So you can see if we pull back open the RepeAT, here's the reviewer field, and here's information on all of for every RepeAT observation we have, the article DOI, the record ID, and the reviewer, and each number corresponds to a given team member, and you could look up so for example, 5 corresponds to, oh dear, I won't even try. But anyway, so you can get all of that data and look it up in the codebook for the documentation keys. So that method's pretty self-explanatory. Database manager also has a method called GetMatches, which is going to query RepeAT for observations that meet specific criteria. So the parameters it takes are RepeAT codebook key, same thing we were just looking at, a boolean, either 0 or 1, which is to indicate whether you want to return matches or you want to return observations that didn't match, and then the string that you're searching for. So in this example, we are searching our RepeAT database, searching the analysis software field for the value SAS, and we want to return any results that were SAS matched the analysis software. So you can see what that looks like after we run it. Here are all of our RepeAT observations, all of the data from RepeAT that for articles, or for studies, I should say, that use SAS as their analysis software. So you can see the DOI, the record ID, and then for validation, the field that we called the third parameter in the GetMatch call. So SAS, SAS, SAS. You can see all of these articles use SAS as their analysis software. So you can do another example. So here's one. I talked about the second parameter was the Boolean, whether to return matches or to return observations that didn't match. And so if you give this 0 here, it's going to search the RepeAT database, and it's going to search all fields, or for every observation, the reviewer field for the value 6, and it's going to return all of the observations that did not have the reviewer as 6. So you can see what that looks like as we run it. You can see like reviewer 55555. Here's some 4s, 2s, and 1s, but no 6s. So this is the article DOI, the record ID, and the reviewer for all articles that were not reviewed by reviewer 6, which I think is me. So these are all the articles that I did not review, yes. So that pretty much takes care of that method. The next one we're going to look at is called GetSearches, which is pretty similar to GetMatches, except instead of returning only observations where the field provided is an exact match to the third parameter, it's going to return any observations where the third parameter is present in the field. So what that is going to look like, which I'll demonstrate, this will be more obvious in a second. So you can see we have all the same articles before, like SAS, 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 but here we have one article that wasn't in our previous set, which is an article that used SPSS and SAS for their analysis software. So you can see, kind of get the idea of how this works. It's looking for any observations, any RepeAT observations that SAS is found using regular expressions in the analysis software field of that observation. So I think a couple more demonstrations will make this a lot clearer. So in this example, we are going to query RepeAT. We're going to look at all observations. We're going to look at the article DOI field for any DOIs that have the string 10.1097, and we're going to return all of the observations where that match returns true. So you can see here's all of the DOIs, record IDs, and then DOI again. The reason we have DOI is because that is the RepeAT codebook key that we put as the first parameter. But so it's a little redundant in this case, but for other fields it wouldn't be. So, and as you can see, some spot verification, all of the DOIs that returned had 10.1097. And then I think I have one more example. Yeah. So in this, we're going to search RepeAT. We're going to search all observations. We're going to look at the article title field for the value cancer, and we're going to return all of the observations where that match returned true. So you can see racial and ethnic differences in time to treatment for patients with localized prostate cancer. There's our cancer. Here's cancer in this article. Here's cancer in this article. So these are all of the RepeAT observations. And then we have the DOI, the record ID, and the article title for articles that had cancer in their title name. So that kind of gives you an idea how GetSearches and GetMatches work. So that was GetSearches before we were doing GetMatches. They're a little different, and so hopefully that all makes sense. So real quickly, I'm just going to clear the screen just to clean it up a little bit. We have this other method called GetMetadata, which returns the entire metadata for the RepeAT data set. So for every field name, there's a field label and what is the name? Field attributes, so field type. And we can see that in the RepeAT codebook, but there's also a lot more information if there's branching logic, field annotation, just other information for the RepeAT database for every field. And this metadata is useful It's important later for validating when we're trying to enter fields into RepeAT if they follow the correct format. For the machine learning algorithms, we want to make sure that we're only trying to run the classification on binary data. So that retrieval of the metadata is handled by the database manager. And then, as I have sort of talked about, we also have the machine learning algorithm, and so the retrieval of the machine learning data is handled by the database manager in the GetMLData method. And so we're going to query RepeAT for all of the analyses processes clear data. So you can see kind of what that looks like. Here's all the record. It returns a list of dictionaries, just a dictionary with the key being the record ID and the value being true or false, whether this RepeAT field is true or false. And so you can see, you can check it out, check one out. If we just go to the record status dashboard, method and data analysis. So for record ID 1, we get true. For analysis processes clear. And did the author state analysis methodology and process? Yes. So that's a 1 or a true. And so that would match all of our observations for RepeAT. So that pretty much takes care of the database manager. Next up is going to be the XML extractor. So stay tuned and we will get going on that in just a bit.